Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. As you know, we are studying very important chapter, life process, in which we are talking about the transportation. In our previous lectures, we have already talked about the transportation in humans. Now we are talking about the circulation in animals. Definitely animals also have a circulatory system. So today in this lecture, we are going to talk about the transportation or circulation in animals. So here we are. First of all, we are going to talk about the circulation in cockroach. Okay, so here we can see the structure of cockroach. So I must say that in cockroach, blood flows, or blood has a, or we can say cockroach has a open circulatory system. Okay, here blood, we can see the structure of cockroach. Thus we can say that cockroach, which is an insect, so it has an open circulatory system. Okay, so here we can see that the cockroach has a cavity in which cavity is known as hemocoel, and this cavity is filled with blood. Okay, now the thing is that this cavity is divided into three parts, okay, by two septas. This cavity is divided into three parts by two septas, and these I must say sinuses are known as pericardial sinus, okay, perivistral sinus and perineural sinus. So first of all, let me introduce the topic circulation in cockroach. Okay, so if we talk about the cockroach, then it has open circulatory system. Okay, insects like cockroach have open circulatory system. Okay, so this system helps in the transportation of nutrients, hormones and waste materials. Okay, but this system does not allow the transportation of gases. Why? Because here we can see in the structure that this system is generally for the circulation of the blood, which contains nutrients, hormones and waste materials, which transport nutrients, waste material and hormones. This open circulatory system does not allow the transportation of gases. For the transportation of gases, there is a different system that is known as tracheal system, already which we have studied in the topic respiration. Okay, now the reason behind it is generally the blood which flows here in the open circulatory system in the cockroach is transparent. Okay, this is the reason that this blood does not have any pigment. This is transparent. This is the reason it cannot transport the gases. Okay, so come to the point that transportation of nutrients, hormones and waste material. Transportation of nutrients, hormones and waste material takes place or is done by the open circulatory system. Okay, here we are talking about the cockroach only. So we can say that in cockroach, transportation of nutrients, hormones and waste material take place by the open circulatory system. Okay, and for the transportation of gases, they have a tracheal system. For transportation of gases, there is tracheal system, which we have already studied in previous lecture, that was respiration in animals, tracheal system. Okay, so here as I told you that blood of cockroach does not transport the gases. Why? Because the blood of cockroach is transparent. It does not have any pigment. This is the reason it cannot transport the gases. Let me mention, blood of cockroach is transparent and does not have pigment. So it cannot transport the blood, it cannot transport the gases in the body. So as I told you that now let's talk about the circulation, the process of circulation. So cockroach, here it has a cavity, okay, it has a tubular cavity which is filled with blood, and this cavity is known as hemocoel. Next topic or next point is circulation, the way of circulation in cockroach. So there is a cavity filled, there is a cavity known as hemocoel, There is a cavity which is filled with blood, okay. Now this cavity is divided into three parts. This cavity is divided into three parts by two septas, okay. So here we can say that the two septas divide the complete cavity into three parts, okay. So this cavity is divided into three parts by two septas. These cavities are so here we can say as it is divided into three parts, so these parts are, or these let me mention, these parts are known as pericardial sinus, okay, then perivisceral sinus and perineural sinus, okay. So as I told you in the structure that cockroach has a big cavity, okay, for the circulation of blood. This is the reason it's known as open blood circulation, and this cavity which is filled with blood is known as hemocoel. This cavity is divided into three parts by two septas, okay, and these parts are known as pericardial cavity or pericardial sinus, then perivisceral sinus and perineural sinus, okay. Here you can see a tubular heart, okay. Generally this heart is 13 chambered, okay. So here we can say that the 13 chambered contractile heart is present only in the pericardial cavity. As a name we can identify or we can judge by the name itself. Pericardial cavity means heart is present there, okay. So here this contractile 13 chambered tubular heart is present in the pericardial cavity, okay. Let me mention 13, there is a contractile 13 chambered heart is present in the pericardial cavity or pericardial sinus, okay. So this is all about the position of the heart. Now if we talk about the flow of the blood, then blood flows from the posterior to the anterior side of this hemocoel or this, what is this, heart. So we can say that blood flows from the posterior, means from the back to the front side, okay. So we can say that the blood flows from the posterior side to the anterior side in the pericardial cavity, okay. Let me mention blood flows from the posterior side to the anterior side okay. So here we can say the flow of blood would be posterior side to the anterior side, means from back to the front. Okay, so this is all about the circulation of cockroach. That cavity, generally cockroach has a big cavity, okay, and this cavity is known as hemocoel, which is filled with blood. Fine. This hemocoel is divided into, means this cavity is divided into three parts, which are pericardial cavity, perivisceral cavity and perisinus cavity. 13-chambered contractile, 13-chambered tubular heart is present in the pericardial cavity, and the blood flows from the posterior side to the anterior side in this cavity. Okay, so this is all about the circulation of blood in the cockroach, and this blood in the cockroach, we are talking about the cockroach. So in the cockroach, blood transports the nutrients and absorb food material and the waste material in the body. Okay, it does not transport the gases. For the transportation of gases, there is a different system which is known as tracheal system. So this is all about the circulation in cockroach. Now we will talk about the circulation in earthworm. Okay, so now we are going to talk about circulation in earthworm. Here we studied the circulation in cockroach. Now we are going to talk about circulation in earthworm. Okay, so here we can see the structure of earthworm. Yes, here we are with the structure of circulation of earthworm. So here we can see that earthworm has two types of vessels which are known as dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessel. Okay, so here we can see dorsal blood vessel is present on the upper side of the alimentary canal, and ventral blood vessel is present beneath of the alimentary canal. Okay, fine. Let me explain you that in earthworm, it has two main blood vessels. One is dorsal blood vessel and another is ventral blood vessel. Ventral blood vessel. Okay, so here we can see that the dorsal blood vessel is present on the upper side of the alimentary canal, and the ventral blood vessel is present on the lower side or beneath the alimentary canal. So first of all, we will talk about dorsal blood vessel. It's present on the upper side of alimentary canal. Okay, and if we talk about ventral blood vessel, so it is present beneath the alimentary canal. It's present beneath the alimentary canal. Fine. So this is all about the earthworm, that it has two types of blood vessels. Generally, blood vessels help in the circulation of blood. So it has two types of blood vessels which are known as dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessel. If we talk about the position, then dorsal blood vessel is present on the upper side of alimentary canal and ventral blood vessel is present on the beneath, means lower side of the alimentary canal. Okay, so now these are all about the blood vessels. If we talk about the heart, then here we can see that heart is here. Or first of all, if we talk about the flow of blood in the dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessel. So in the dorsal blood vessel, blood flows from the posterior side to the anterior side, means from back to the front. Okay, let me mention here that in dorsal blood vessel, blood flows from posterior side to anterior side. Okay, means blood flows from back to front. Where? Only in the dorsal blood vessels. But in the ventral blood vessel, the condition is just different or just opposite. Here, the blood flows from the anterior side to the posterior side. Let me mention, in ventral blood vessels, blood flows from anterior to posterior side. Blood flows from anterior to posterior side. Okay. So this is the difference, that dorsal blood vessel is present on the upper side and blood flows from the posterior to anterior side, means from back to front, and ventral blood side vessel which is present beneath the alimentary canal, blood flows from the anterior side to the posterior side, means from front to back. Okay, now at the anterior end, or we can say near the anterior end, these blood vessels are connected to the 4 pairs of tubular heart. Okay, let me mention, near the anterior end, near the anterior end, these vessels are connected to the 4 pairs of tubular heart. Okay. So near the anterior end, these vessels are connected to the 4 pairs of tubular heart. Okay. Now what happens? We can see that blood flows from the dorsal vessels to the heart by the valves, or these valves allow the flow of blood only in the one direction. This is the reason these valves are known as unicellular. Okay, or flow of blood is known as unicellular because the valves which are connected, which connects the dorsal vessel to the heart, they allow the flow of blood only in the one direction. Okay, so here let me mention, blood flows from the dorsal vessel to the heart through valves and these valves allow the flow of blood only in the one direction. Okay, so here we can say blood flows from the dorsal vessel to the heart through valves in one direction only. Okay, so these valves allow the flow of, suppose these are the valves, so these valves allow the flow of the blood from vessel to the heart only in the one direction. These valves do not allow the blood to flow back from the heart to the vessel. Clear? So this is the reason these valves are known as that they allow the flow of blood in the one direction. Fine. So here blood moves from the or flows from the dorsal vessel, means here we can see the vessel which are present on the upper side. So blood flows from the dorsal vessel to the heart by these valves, and the valves allow the flow of blood only in the one direction. Fine. Then blood goes to the ventral blood vessel. From ventral blood vessels, actually these vessels are divided into the fine capillaries. Okay, then these capillaries are because these capillaries are very thin and they allow the diffusion of the nutrients which are present there in the blood. Fine. So this is all about the circulation in earthworm. The blood, or we can say blood goes to the ventral, then blood flows into the ventral, into the ventral blood vessel. These vessels are divided into fine capillaries. These vessels are divided into fine capillaries. These capillaries are thin walled. These capillaries are thin walled. Okay, and the nutrients which are present there in the blood, they get diffused in the cells by these capillaries or by the walls of these capillaries, and the nutrients present in the blood are diffused in the cells. Fine. So as what is the actual process of circulation of earthworm? So here blood vessels which are responsible for the flow of blood, these are of two type in the earthworm. Okay, they are dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessel. I am repeating, dorsal blood vessels are present on the upper side of alimentary canal, and ventral blood vessels are present on the lower side, means on the beneath of alimentary canal. Fine. So dorsal at the anterior end, we can say that these vessels are connected with the 4-chamber tubular heart. Fine. From dorsal blood vessel, blood goes to the heart and through the walls only, which allow the movement of the blood or which allow the flow of blood only in the one direction. So from heart, blood goes to the ventral blood vessel. Ventral blood vessels are divided into the fine capillaries which are thin walled, and whatever the nutrients are present there in the blood, they get diffused in the cells by those walls of the capillaries. Okay, so this is the complete circulation of earthworm or circulation in earthworm. So here in this lecture, we studied about the circulation in cockroach and circulation in earthworm. In cockroach, the circulation is open, means we can say that in the earthworms or in the cockroaches there is open circulatory system. Okay, there is a big cavity, that is hemocoel, and which is divided into 4 chambers. Let me show it again, which is divided into 3 chambers: pericardial sinus, perivestral sinus and perineural sinus. 13-chamber tubular heart is present there in the pericardial cavity only, and blood flows through this chamber only. Okay, next we studied about the circulation in earthworm. So here these are the blood vessels are divided into two blood vessels, dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessels, and rest complete procedure I have already explained you. So hope the circulation in animals like cockroach and earthworm is clear to you. Thank you.